The guns did not stop all at once. Across Europe and Asia, artillery fell silent in fragments, one front at a time, leaving behind an unfamiliar and unsettling quiet. Cities lay broken, their streets choked with rubble, twisted steel, and the remains of lives interrupted. Smoke still drifted from smoldering ruins as civilians stepped cautiously into daylight, unsure whether the war had truly ended or merely paused. Victory brought no cheers here, only exhaustion, disbelief, and the slow realization that survival itself was now the central task. For soldiers, the end of combat felt unreal. Men who had lived for years by orders, alarms, and sudden death now stood idle, weapons lowered, waiting for instructions that no longer came. Some celebrated weakly, others stared blankly into space, unable to shed the habits of war. The battlefield remained dangerous, littered with mines and unexploded shells. Even in victory, death lingered beneath the soil, claiming lives long after the fighting stopped. Civilians emerged from basements, camps, forests, and ruins, searching desperately for family members lost to bombing, deportation, or retreat. Train stations filled with displaced people, carrying scraps of paper, photographs, and fading hope. Entire populations were on the move, driven by destroyed homes and redrawn borders. Victory did not restore what had been taken, it only revealed the scale of absence left behind. The concentration camps exposed the darkest truth of the war. Survivors stumbled into freedom, physically alive, but shattered beyond recognition. The world struggled to comprehend what had been done in silence behind barbed wire. Piles of shoes, empty barracks, and mass graves stood mute witnesses to industrialized murder. Liberation came too late for millions, and for those who lived, freedom arrived burdened with trauma that would never fully fade. Across Europe, cities resembled open wounds. Berlin, Warsaw, Dresden, and countless others lay flattened, their historic centers erased. Reconstruction would take decades, but grief was immediate. Children played among ruins, their normal shaped by destruction. Governments spoke of rebuilding nations, yet individuals focused on rebuilding lives, finding food, shelter, and reasons to keep going after years of relentless loss. In Asia, the war ended not with celebration, but with blinding finality. Atomic fire consumed entire cities in seconds, introducing a new terror to human history. Survivors wandered landscapes of ash and silence, burned shadows where life had once existed. Victory came with a warning the world could not ignore. Humanity now possessed the power to destroy itself completely. Prisoners of war began the long journey home, many returning to countries that no longer existed in the form they remembered. Borders shifted, governments collapsed, and ideologies replaced one another. Homecoming was often bittersweet, families reunited, but communities fractured. Some veterans found themselves strangers in their own towns, carrying memories no one wanted to hear. Justice followed the war, but it moved slowly. Trials sought to impose order on chaos, naming crimes so vast they defied language. Testimony revealed cruelty carried out as policy, obedience used as excuse. For the first time, the world attempted to hold leaders accountable, not just for losing wars, but how they were fought. Justice offered recognition, but not closure. The global balance of power shifted decisively. Old empires weakened, new superpowers emerged, and alliances hardened along ideological lines. Victory planted the seeds of future conflict as fear replaced unity. The war had ended, but peace proved fragile, shaped by suspicion and memory rather than trust. For survivors, the war never truly ended. Nightmares replaced air raids, and silence replaced gunfire. Trauma passed quietly from parents to children, shaping generations born after the surrender documents were signed. Victory was recorded in history books, but loss lived on in kitchens, streets, and empty chairs at family tables. Memorials rose where battlefields once burned. Names were carved into stone, representing lives reduced to numbers during the war. These monuments offered places to remember, to mourn, and to warn. They stood not as celebrations of triumph, but as reminders of cost. Victory without celebration defined the end of the Second World War. Humanity survived, but innocence did not. The silence after the guns carried questions that remain unanswered: how it happened, why it was allowed, and whether it could happen again. Peace arrived, not as relief, but as responsibility.